42,000 members at Disney World in Orlando, Florida, reject the latest contract offer from Disney, which includes a $1 raise.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Last Week in Southern Labor. Last Week in Southern Labor is a segment that we do every week mostly where we tell you what happened in the labor movement in the South. We pull the information from Jonah Furman's newsletter, Who Gets the Bird?, which compiles all this information for the entire United States. So if you want to see what is going on outside of the South, then make sure you subscribe to that newsletter. It is at whogetsthebird.substack.com. With that, let's jump into new organizing for the week of January 8th to the 15th. We had 6 flight simulator techs at Aero Simulation in Mobile, Alabama, joining the Machinists Union. 4 workers at record producer American Vinyl Company in Asheville, North Carolina are unionizing with IBEW Local 238. And 4 drivers for U.S. Food Service in Manassas, Virginia are joining Teamsters Local 355. We had two elections last week. 50 baristas at all 5 locations of Louisville, Kentucky's Sunergo's Coffee voted 30-14 to unionize with the National Conference of Firemen and Oilers.
That's an interesting pick.
Interesting pick.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a backstory there. So yeah, I don't know if anyone ever comes across that backstory. I would be interested in it.
10 electricians at Fort Hood, Texas, deadlocked on joining the Machinists Union, which means that they are not unionizing. In strike and bargaining updates, for Labor Notes, Courtney Smith and Jonah Furman wrote a big article about the ATU, Amalgamated Transit Union, Local 689 strike against Keolis, a private operator of the Loudoun County, Virginia public transit system. It's the latest of many of these sorts of fights, especially in D.C., where private operators win a privatization contract on an impossibly low-dollar bid and proceed to aggressively fight the unions, where they exist, to cut wages and benefits. In this case, the company even forced, essentially, a revote on the union, which Local 689 handily won. In Charlotte, North Carolina, 500 or so transit workers with SMART, Local 1715, at the Charlotte Area Transit System, run by another private operator, RATP Dev, authorized a strike last week, but apparently won't walk before February. In September, remember, members rejected a contract that would have taken away days off in exchange for an 11% raise. The Service Trades Council Union, which is comprised of 6 unions representing 42,000 members at Disney World in Orlando, Florida, recommended that their membership reject the latest contract offer from Disney, which includes a $1 raise.
Oh, wow. How generous of them.
The contract expired in October, and the unions have been rallying for a new deal since. The players of the U.S. Football League, headquartered in Birmingham, Alabama, have ratified their first union contract with the Steelworkers Union. Very excited for them, hoping to try to get some of them on the show at some point. We've reached out to the union, and maybe we'll be able to get them on soon. The National Postal Mail Handlers Union, which is affiliated with the LIUNA, incidentally, a new sponsor of the show, we'll be talking about that later, is mailing out ballots for its contract ratification vote. The International Association of Firefighters, Local 1012 in Coral Gables, Florida, are at an impasse in negotiations with the city. In politics and legislation, the Supreme Court heard oral arguments in the Glacier case that, at its worst, threatens to hit unions with extensive damages incurred by companies due to strike activity, and NBC, at least, thinks that our cloaked overlords are going to side with the company. Politico has the story of how some labor leaders, including from South Carolina and the president of the Georgia AFL-CIO, feel like Biden's move to push South Carolina to be the new Iowa in the Democratic Party presidential primaries in 2024 is a major snub to labor, which only has a 1.7% membership in the state, which is the lowest in the country.
I would add that my opinion is that it is a snub to labor, and I commend those leaders in South Carolina and Georgia for actually saying something.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. That said, unions, especially trades unions and worker centers, celebrated a newly announced Department of Homeland Security policy that would extend protections to non-citizens who seek to enforce their rights under the National Labor Relations Act. Immigration status is one of the clearest vulnerabilities that employers exploit when their workers start demanding things like not having their wages stolen, let alone their union rights, and can make it extremely hard to organize those workers who are, for obvious reasons, some of the most exploited workers in the country. We'll be talking about that later in the show as well. And finally, wrapping it up with internal union politics, the ballots have officially been mailed out in the UAW runoff elections for the 3 slots that were not decided in the first round. That is the president. The runoff is between incumbent Ray Curry and reform challenger Shawn Fain. One of the 3 vice presidents, which is between 2 incumbents, as the reformers only ran for 2 of the 3 slots, and the Region 9 director between incumbent Lauren Farrell and reform challenger Daniel Vicente. Fain and Curry held an online debate moderated by Stephen Greenhouse, which took up some of the core and existential issues facing the union. So if you're interested, maybe check that out. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.